Now, tensions continue to rise across the Taiwan Straits between Beijing and Taipei. Almost 150 Chinese aircraft have entered Taiwan's airspace, their air defence zone, since Friday. Its defence minister believes a full-scale invasion could be possible by 2025. China, of course, has always said that Taiwan should be taken by force if necessary. A clueless Joe Biden, meanwhile, was asked about the issue overnight, referring to an agreement that actually doesn't exist.
I've spoken with Xi about Taiwan. We agree we'll abide by the Taiwan agreement. That's where we are. And we made it clear that I don't think he should be doing anything other than abiding by the agreement.
The assumption is that Biden was talking about the one China policy. I don't know. Hopefully Xi Jinping knew what Biden was talking about, but who knows? Let's bring in Michael Shoebridge, who's the Director of Defence at the Australian Strategic Policy Institute. Thanks for joining us, David. Just how concerned, Michael, sorry, I keep giving you the name of the Greens politician, your soulmate. Tell us, Michael, how serious this situation is. We know that the Taiwanese will often talk it up in terms of that sort of rhetoric, but how do we put it into context in Australia?
Well, Chris, I think we've got to take it seriously because Xi does want to unify Taiwan with the mainland while he's the leader. He's a man in a hurry, and his only way to unify Taiwan now, after what he's done to Hong Kong, is to do it by force. So when we see these Chinese military flights going in greater and greater numbers into Taiwan's air defense zone, we need to take it seriously and not just shrug our shoulders. But the good news is that's happening. Right while this is happening, there are 6 navies cooperating together with 3 aircraft carriers in moves to deter Beijing. So that's the good news here.
While we might be concerned about a doddering Joe Biden or wonder what he's talking about when he mentions the agreement in this issue, there's been no sign from the US that its strong position on Taiwan and China has changed, is there?
No, in fact, Congress recommitted to their Taiwan Relations Act, which at core says the US will oppose Taiwan's change of status by force. And that's the same policy that Australia and the governments of those 6 navies that are cooperating in North Asia right now have. So Biden hopefully is saying he's reinforcing that commitment to oppose change of status of Taiwan by force. But really the bigger issue here is how can we believe a word Xi speaks on this? Because the last time he said he wasn't going to militarize something, that was a promise he made to Obama in the White House Rose Garden, and he went home and did the opposite.
Indeed. Well, I'll come back to Xi Jinping in a moment, but with Joe Biden, when he talks about the agreement, presumably he's talking about the American position of a one China policy that's recognising, I suppose, Chinese sovereignty over China, but at the same over Taiwan, but at the same time saying that it would defend Taiwan if it were attacked by China.
Well, it's not even recognising their sovereignty. It's acknowledging that Beijing thinks it has sovereignty over Taiwan, but just acknowledging it, which is the Australian policy too. We acknowledge that's Beijing's view, but we oppose the change of Taiwan's status by force. So there's an important but subtle difference between us recognising their claim to sovereignty and us acknowledging that that's what Beijing thinks.
Indeed, and it's been that delicate balance that's actually operated reasonably well in recent decades. And you talk about the reunification by force, because in previous years there's been a whole lot of economic and people-to-people integration between Taiwan and China, and people thought this might happen gradually over time. Now, there are many, many reasons that Xi Jinping might think now would be the time to look at a forceful act. One of those could be his problems domestically. There's been a lot of speculation about that of late. Also, it'd be his view of America and how strong the president is there. What's your view on those two aspects?
Well, I think you're right. He's got a lot of domestic drivers at the moment. He's got enormous trouble in China's financial sector and property development sector with Evergrande. He's got the own goal of economic confidence that he's inflicted by his attitude to successful corporate leaders. And we see that in their big tech community with Alibaba and the education sector. And he's got a bunch of rolling blackouts because he won't buy Australian coal, although he's had to change his mind on some of that. And then he's got his own purges in the party and the government. So there's a lot of reasons he wants to stoke nationalism. With Biden, I think he would, if he centred that Biden didn't have the political will to oppose his use of force, he would act. But it's hard to really see that when two American aircraft carriers are exercising right now in that part of the world.
And of course, the domestic politics give every indication that whenever Joe Biden is tough on China, as with his predecessors, that's good for him in the domestic political setting as well. Just one other question out of left field, Michael. This is an issue that was raised with me today. We know that China's so bellicose. When someone says or does something that upsets them in their current phase, especially, they go out with very, very strong rhetoric and sometimes following through with action. Australia's experienced that with what this country has said about investigations into the origins of the virus. Now, our own Sherry Markson, of course, has done a lot of reporting on this. She's published a book now that's got a lot of attention globally. She's run a documentary series on this. Now, her documentary even included an interview with the former President Donald Trump. But we've not heard anything from China on this. Is this because they don't want to outright deny what's gone on in Wuhan, or do you think we can expect to hear something from them soon? Why wouldn't they be responding to this new focus on Wuhan?
Well, Chris, I think it's a bit like their reaction on the Australia-UK-US deal that has nuclear submarines and high technology in the middle of it. I think a big part of the explanation is their old words of reaction don't work anymore. You know, it's empty now for them to come out with it's a Cold War mentality and why aren't we all of a win-win mindset? So I think they know what they feel able to say just isn't landing well in the rest of the world. And think about, you know, their bellicose stuff around Taiwan. Has that stopped Tony Abbott from visiting or a group of French senators from visiting right now? So they're actually creating the opposite effect. They're bringing people together to deter them.
They might be learning. Thanks so much for joining us, Michael. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Chris. Great to talk to you.